I really want to begin just by thanking Calvary for so much. You have been a great friend to us on the journey. It is coming back now to see old friends in Memphis. You know, you welcomed my husband, Marcus Hummin, and the musical he wrote, the Frederick Douglass piece, the American Prophet this year, and did such a beautiful job. Every year that you invite us, it's towards the end of Lent. I've just spent 8 days in Ecuador. I'm hungry, and you have the best food. And I don't even feel bad this year. It's the first time I know I'm breaking my Lent in about 20 minutes, and I don't care. Just the idea of that pie. When I got up this morning in Nashville, I was like, drive, go. Every mile is a little bit closer to that pie. And also, I mean, just the programs and the organization that we have been able to do together. I'm thinking of Thistle and Bee and the Saint Therese de Lisieux, and starting this journey of really building a movement for women who are survivors of trafficking, addiction, and prostitution, and how it takes all of us. And we are really on the path to have sister communities in every single state in the Union. And Memphis came on board early on, and we are grateful. So thank you. The gospel today really teaches us that if we want to love more, we better forgive more. If you want to love more, forgive more. And it is messy. And it is lavish. When we first started out 25 years ago, I was in seminary thinking about this community called Magdalene. All the literature was coming out just about then. It was when women's theology was really taking root, and the huge debates that you heard over and over, and people were emphatic and mad about it. Was Magdalene a prostitute or not? And so you can imagine having a program that was named for that. I got every single article. I got to have wonderful discussions with all kinds of folks. And the truth was, in the back of my mind, it didn't make that much difference to me. You know, the story goes, there's a woman on the streets in the seventh chapter, who has some sins. And then at the beginning of the 8th chapter, we're introduced to Magdalene. It's like the next verse, as this leader and this beautiful woman who helps lead other women in the community. And so many people associate her with this woman who is doing the anointing, and many people do not. And in my opinion, part of the reason I think I never cared much whatever the answer was going to be as we did our exegetical gymnastics was that I never understood really the difference that much between a priest and prostitute anyway. And I'm talking about myself. I'm talking about that I know what it means to be forgiven 500. And all the brokenness and all the journeys that all of us have taken, that the lines that separate us are nothing. And whatever the labels people have put on us, victim, criminal, survivor, addict, trauma, whatever those words are, we're also healers and teachers and preachers of good news, and all of that comes together in a beautiful way. When I think of Magdalene my whole life, I've thought of the first preacher of the good news. She was the first preacher of resurrection. When I think of Magdalene, I think of somebody who has such a powerful notion of what healing and hope looks like. Jesus lingers for her at the tomb. Lingers for her. That whether out of her need or her abundance or her grace or mercy, or that she has forgiven a lot and therefore can love a lot, that in all the stories of resurrection, it changes who is at the tomb. In each of our gospel accounts, Magdalene is always there. Always getting up before the dawn, ready to grieve a body and ready to weep at all the loss and ready to hear the good news that love never dies. So in this story, we are the woman. And whether she is acting as a priest, a sinner, wherever she comes from, we know that it is about grace and forgiveness so that we can love a lot. We are to identify with that woman. And of course, the means by which we are to understand the grace and the depth of this love and forgiveness is oil. The symbol of lavishness in this world. Costly, perfumed oils. Perhaps pure spikenard, lavender. Perhaps blended with other essential oils, ready to signify and be the symbols of forgiveness and love in our lives. We're doing a whole talk tonight just on why those healing oils are so significant and actually passing out those oils for all of us to carry back into this world. Of course it's oil. There's not a better sense of how lavish we can be than to pour costly oil on someone's feet. What a waste, right? Isn't that what Judas says in the other account? What a waste. That we would do this act for somebody is in itself lavish. And it has to be that way. I was at a workshop earlier this year, and they were wanting to talk about healing stories, and I said it'd be fun to act out this gospel in the sanctuary. And we're like, not in our sanctuary. That is awful. Pouring oils everywhere. Do you know how messy that is? It's the sense of how lavish to pour it out and watch it spill out is amazing. Yesterday, I was with 30 women from Thistle Farms, all residents in the community, all new in their recovery, all scared to death about what it means. So I brought in oils from Exodus 30. And we poured it on each other. And I invited each woman to put their hands to their face and breathe it in and say, this scent, this blend of oils is 3,600 years old, give or take several hundred years. Do you know what an amazing foundation and how powerful and lavish this is? And it is for you. When you step out onto this new ground of forgiveness and hope and mercy, you don't have to be afraid. You are standing on solid ground. You can forgive, and you can weep, and you can pour out your heart, and all will be well. All that stuff that you have held on to dearly like a precious pearl is nothing compared to what you can pour out. It's beautiful and deep and holy. Can you imagine the awkwardness after she does it? Okay, I'll be going now. I always think about those moments of intimacy when forgiveness and love have been exchanged and poured out, and what that must be like in the messiness of it. After you stained the floor with about $400 worth of oil, in the sanctuary steps, pouring out our heart, saying, so sorry. I should have thought of this and gotten a towel. And, you just try to wipe it down and all of that. And I think that is supposed to be that way. It is awkward to be that intimate with each other. It is awkward to stand and say, I have messed up. I need forgiveness 500 worth. I need to weep at your feet. I need you to touch my head. I need to know that you forgive me. It's a messy and lavish job, this work of forgiveness. It's hard. It demands our money. It demands our time. It demands our best gifts. It means that we cannot walk away the same way we came in. It's too messy. We have to go a different route. So the invitation in this Lenten season, as it always is, if you want to celebrate Easter and new life, if you desire in your heart to live freer and deeper and more in love, you have to be willing to get messy. You have to be willing to let it cost you something. The world will tell you, that's not economical, that's not good. Always pitting one thing against another. One of the things we've learned on this 20-year journey of Thistle Farms is that lavish and economical do make sense. You can do all these things. You can forgive abundantly. You can love abundantly. You can pour out oil and do it for women on the streets and people in your community, and it will produce 1,000-fold. Love begets love, period. When you pour out your oils, it's not that you will not have any left. When you forgive, it's not like you will be left wanting. You will be so full of gratitude it will buckle your knees. No reason to hang on to those stories like precious oil or precious pearl. Forgive it. And watch resurrection and new life happen in you. This summer, whenever we travel, and we get to travel with the women of Thistle Farms and Magdalene, we get to watch the women have new experiences that are coming through the program. Plane flights, seeing the ocean, seeing the mountains, seeing buffaloes, seeing crazy things in their lives besides streets and underneath bridges and inside prison walls and the short side of justice. Seeing things that are lavish and wonderful because of the love of communities inviting us in. I traveled this summer with a woman who was from Indiana who hitchhiked at the age of 13, got in the wrong truck, and never made it back for 20 years. She came with me to Michigan to see Lake Michigan for the first time. We went to a hotel, and she told me, I've never been to a hotel before where I didn't have to do something at the end of the day. So we check in at the hotel. I go to my room. About an hour later, there's a knock on my door, and it's her. Come on in, I say, and I figure she's scared because she hasn't been in a room by herself like this. And she said she was brushing her teeth and getting ready to go to bed, and I was not going to believe what happened. I looked in the mirror, she said, and I saw something beautiful. This business is so lavish, and it is so messy, and it is so worth it to be able to look in the mirror and recognize the face of God. I imagine that when she walks out, she caught a glimpse of it. And she was never freer in her life. Thank God we have been given this gift of loving so deeply. Amen.